Hey guys, welcome back to Reviewing While Driving. I am Gene. Going to be starting a new Game of Thrones video series, and it's post-season 6, essentially characters, the major characters, where are we on their story arcs, what is the status of the characters going forward, and who are the most intriguing characters who are not necessarily the main players, but who are major characters on the show, and kind of where we see them going forward. What possible completions to their stories do we see? And so I want to start with probably not the first choice of everybody, but certainly a compelling character from the very beginning, and that would be Jaime Lannister. Now, I think Jaime is one of the more interesting characters on the show because he's torn. Now, we didn't really see this when we first met Jaime. When we first met him, he was fairly, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but pretty clear on who he was. He was a member of the Kingsguard. He is his sister's lover. He is the father of his sister's children who have Robert's last name. He is arrogant, he is cocky, he is every frat boy, jock stereotype you can think of, except he's not a womanizer. The one woman he loves, he's a one-woman man, right? And it's his sister. He is extremely family-oriented, almost to the exclusion of everybody else. He has no other relationships to speak of, with one small exception, which we'll get back to, and that is his fellow members of the Kingsguard. But other than that, Jaime has very few close relationships. And so when we meet him, he's very much the evil brother, you know, to Cersei. I mean, they're twins in a lot of ways, right? I mean, they're both manipulative and, you know, cunning. Jaime's probably less manipulating and more just, I'm going to do what I want to do. And, you know, flouting his Lannister name and riches. And I think that's pretty typical, really, for all of them, including Tyrion when we first meet him. When we first meet him, all he's really got, though, are these close relationships with his brother Tyrion and his sister Cersei. And that really is defining him almost more than his arrogance as the seasons progress. So he has basically two ways through the world. That is with his family and his relationships, being a Lannister, being the firstborn Lannister, and then being the most badass swordsman who's alive at that time. I think that you could have a debate about, you know, the Mountain or the Red Viper or Barristan Selmy, but clearly Jaime's in the top three. He is, you know, a complete force of nature. And so, in a way, he's at his very peak when we first meet him. And so the story for Jaime then, as the seasons progress, is about deconstructing him and finding out what he's really made of. Who is he? When you take away the things he cares about, who is Jaime Lannister? And I think that's fascinating. So, there are several key events that occur to Jaime, notably when he is captured by Robb Stark's army, and he meets Lady Cat, and of course you know, he is eventually well, two big things happen in that whole sequence. The first one is he loses his hand, and that is one of the most, for him, emasculating events possible. I mean, you might as well have chopped his nuts off. Without his hand, he is half the man he used to be. I mean, they call his brother the half man. Jaime, if he can't fight, who is he? What does he have left? And so that George Martin took away that really core part of his being and what made him interesting and unique. I mean, as far as his way through the world personally. he always has his family, but in terms of his own accomplishments, they were done by virtue of his fighting skill. But left-handed, he can't even fight a foot soldier. I mean, you might recall, I believe it was in season 3 or 4, Bronn trying to train him to fight left-handed, and he just can't do it. I mean, he's barely competent in that arena. So taking that away from him has been a tremendous challenge, and so he all he had left at that point, he thought, right, was his family. But there's something else about Jaime that we're starting to learn, and I really would love it if this comes out more. And we see bits of it when he talks about previous members of the King's Guard, when he's talking to Barristan Selmy about Arthur Dayne, when he's speaking about Barristan Selmy. He is a man of honor. And so even though it's below the surface, the idea of honor and duty is percolating underneath there. And it really comes out in full force through Brienne. Now, when he first meets Brienne, obviously he is a complete prick. And that's Jaime, right? But after getting to know her and being essentially her captive, and when he's being taken back to King's Landing to exchange for the Stark girls, he gets to know who she is, and it awakens something in him where he knows what matters to him, and you can call it pride. There is some pride there, but it's really about this sense of fraternity and brotherhood and honor that he shares with Brienne, and he doesn't even know it until we see the episode where they're captured, and I believe it's actually the Boltons when they're still part of the Northern Army. It's in the episode "The Bear and the Maiden Fair." Remember when Brienne is down in the pit fighting the bear with some of the Bolton soldiers watching on, and Jaime jumps down there and essentially makes sure that she lives, and he rescues her. And he doesn't have to do that. I mean, he's already leaving, right? I mean, he's going to be taken back down to King's Landing. He could just walk away. There's nothing binding him to her, except they shared that moment earlier. If you recall, it was in a steamy big bath. And while it had, some, I guess, sexual tension there, not really, a little bit, it was really more about breaking Jaime down. He's lost his hand, he's healing, and he tells the story to Brienne that very few people know, and it's the story of the Mad King heiress and Burn Them All and the wildfire beneath the city, and why he became the Kingslayer, and that he has that label, but it's not really the truth. It's not who he is. I mean, yes, he is a Kingslayer, but he had a good reason, and it was an honorable reason, and he served the realm when he did it. And there he is sitting on the throne, having killed the king. Does he take the throne? No. He helps Robert and Ned take over the city. I mean, there's a reason why in the opening credits with the astrolabe and the turning bands of metal to tell the story of Robert's rebellion with the sigils of the houses, there's a reason why there's a lion in there attacking the dragon. It's not just because of Tywin leading the Lannister armies. Part of that is because of Jaime, the Kingslayer, helping Robert take out the dragon. That's what that's about. So Brienne then realizes that there's more to Jaime than just this arrogant, rich, former great fighter, right, who's lost his hand, that there's something more there. And that really awakens something in Jaime. So his drive then isn't changed away from Cersei, okay? But it's this extra layer that's added on top that serves a lot of purposes, but mainly it's to create tension and conflict within Jaime. And obviously at the end of season 6, and we'll get there, that comes into full force at the finale, and we're left to wonder, what is Jaime going to do? So you can't deny the power that Cersei has over Jaime. And it's kind of a one-way deal, right? I mean, Jaime would do and kill anybody and do anything for his brother and his sister, especially Cersei. But he would do anything. He would kill anyone. And he tells Edmure Tully that down in Riverrun when he's trying to when he's laying siege to the castle and trying to get the Blackfish to surrender. He tells him this. I'll kill every one of you. I'll, catapult your baby over the wall, right? If that's what it takes. So his overarching driving force, his default, his basic mode is always going to be, I got to be with Cersei. And he's been loyal to her. I mean, to a fault. You think about a handsome young man who's heir to the most, powerful family in Westeros. He could have anybody. I mean, really. I mean, seriously, he's like, there's the king, and then there's, Jaime Lannister, as far as eligible bachelors and people who, would be desirable to marry. But does he take that? No, he joins the Kingsguard and waves off his birthright to Casterly Rock. He completely goes against his father's plans, as the other Lannister children do, right? I mean, Cersei goes ahead and makes babies with Jaime instead of with Robert. I mean, heck, she kills the children that she had by Robert. She kills them. All her kids are Jaime's kids, period. Tyrion, Tywin wants nothing to do with him. He killed his wife by being born. That's what Tywin thinks. And, Tyrion is never going to be good enough, ever. So Jaime is continuing that tradition, I suppose, of Lannister children not doing what Daddy wants them to. But think about that. I mean, he gives up all that, kind of like Jon Snow in a way, right? Jon Snow gives up everything to join the Night's Watch. Jaime gives up everything just so he can be close to Cersei. But as a result, he's got this sense of honor that gets awoken in him by being a Kingsguard and later by meeting Bran. Now, there's a lot of things about Bran that come up. In season 6, we see a heavy Jaime dose in kind of episodes, I want to say 5, 6, and 7, maybe 8, where essentially we are, and this is the part that it does several purposes, but it's where after Tommen makes Tommen and Marjorie make their deal with the High Sparrow about Marjorie. Tommen comes out, his uncle / father, Jaime, is removed from the Kingsguard, which is just another emasculating, devastating event. and then basically, all Jaime's got left then is to command the Lannister armies, because his uncle Kevin is the hand of the king, and Tywin is dead, so he is the logical person to lead the armies. And so they say, okay, go over to the Riverlands and get back Riverrun and help out Walder Frey, who is the Lord of the Riverlands after the Red Wedding, right? So you might say, well, what's the purpose of all that? I mean, what have we really accomplished there? Well, what we did was 2 things. We separated Jaime and Cersei, which allowed Cersei to do all the things that she did at the end of season 6, and which is a whole nother story, which we'll get to. But what it also did was it gave Jaime that separation from her, so that he could uncover more about who he really is, really without even knowing it. Now, Jaime has 4 interactions of note in the Riverlands, and all of which serve to highlight this conflict that he has between his Cersei default mode of, I love my sister and I got to be with her. The conflict between that and his honor. And it goes to his own sense of self-identity. And we'll get to the 4 scenes that he's in that have that power. But it's important when we hearken back to that Brienne conversation in the bath, where he's telling her about his honor and why he was the Kingslayer. In his mind, he is this honorable guy who also happens to be in love with his sister, okay? Even though everybody else thinks he kills the king to put his sister in power and marry, Robert. That's how he's perceived. He doesn't see himself that way, okay? And that this is really important, that the deconstruction of Jaime that occurs in these 4 scenes in the Riverlands is Jaime fully comprehending how he sees himself is not how everybody else sees him, and maybe not who he really is. Or is he? So the first meaningful scene that we get with Jaime is with the Blackfish. He shows up in the Riverlands and he says, essentially, Blackfish, your men don't have to die. I just need you, surrender the castle, and let's all go home. And he tries to appeal to the Blackfish's sense of honor, and the Blackfish is having none of it. I mean, nothing. He has no interest. He berates Jaime. He thinks he's sort of this popinjay who's in this, the fancy Lannister red and gold armor, and he's essentially telling him, kiss my ass, and I'm not impressed with who you are, and I've got 2 years of food, so come and take the castle if you can. And Jaime was making a bona fide attempt to be honorable, to not kill his army off in a siege, and also just to get it over with so he could get back to Cersei. But what we see is that Jaime is he's genuinely surprised by the Blackfish's reaction to him. He's sort of taken aback, like, well, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, clearly they're outnumbered, and yes, I understand the Freys are idiots, and I know they're never going to kill Edmure. He's all they got, so, relax, the big boys are here now, let's talk like men, and the Blackfish shuts him down. And so Jaime is sort of confronted with that. Now, the next thing we see is when he meets up with Brienne again. So Brienne is coming down, remember, to deliver the message from Sansa to the Blackfish, basically saying, hey, uncle, please come help me, take back Winterfell, and, let's, bring the Tully army up here and help me out against Ramsay Bolton. So Brienne's got that message to deliver, and she meets up with Jaime. Now, the interaction between Jaime and Brienne is sublime. And I gotta say, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau's acting this season has just nailed it. He has found the depths of Jaime. And I think he always had it, but we get to see it, right? So here he is talking to Brienne, who is the avatar of honor. Even though she is, no Lannister and not a Kingsguard, he knows that in some ways she's almost his mentor from a honor standpoint and what a knight should be. And he knows this. Where it comes out most clearly is when she offers him Oathkeeper back. She says, you gave me this sword to keep my oath, right? Which was to bring the Stark girls back to Catelyn. And he fulfilled she fulfilled her oath. She got Sansa back to her family. And so she's saying, here you go. Here's the sword back. Wow. So here's this Valyrian steel sword that was made for Jaime. Jaime gave it to her because out of a sense of duty and I think he was inspired by Brienne. No, you go fulfill your oath. You know, you brought me back, and now I'm going to do what I said I would do. I'm going to help you get the Stark girls back. He gives her the sword. She comes and brings it back to him. He never thought he would ever see that again. Now, it doesn't, you know, surprise us, right, that sword also happens to be ice, or forged from ice, Ned Stark's, you know, great sword. But there it is. He had this opportunity to get it back. Of course, he doesn't have a right hand anymore. So maybe he thinks, well, you know, I can't use it anyway. Bran, you just keep it. But that's not what he was thinking. He was saying, no, it's yours. Why did he do that? Because two reasons. Number one, there is no better keeper of a sword named Oathkeeper than Brienne. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think there's a part of Jaime, and we'll get to this, but maybe he doesn't think he's worthy of that kind of a sword. Is he an Oathkeeper? Is he honorable? He knows that she needs to keep that. So she's inspired him and reminded him of this honor part of himself. And when they part ways, she says, you understand, if you know, I'm sworn to the Starks, and I support the Tullys, and you know, we might have to fight each other. And Jaime says, I understand. So here he is again, inspired by this sense of honor, and okay, I'm going to try to do the right thing. I'm going to try to negotiate. And then we get the scene with Edmure, right, where Edmure's on the post, captive, and Jaime tries to negotiate with him, just like he did with the Blackfish, and Edmure's having none of it. You know, what do you know of honor? You know, you're the Kingslayer. And Jaime loses his patience, and he finally just says, look, I'll launch your Frey baby over the walls if that's what it takes, but I love my sister and I'm getting back to her. So it's the first time, I think, that he really outs himself to somebody outside the family, openly, where he just basically says, yes, I love my sister, and so, you know, if I got to kill every one of you to do that, then so be it. And it's funny because, you know, that's what ends up getting Riverrun back, right? It's not the Freys trying to, you know, threatening to kill Edmure. It's not Jaime trying to negotiate with the Tullys to, you know, to open up the gates. No, it is Jaime saying, I'm going to kill your baby that you don't even know, and wipe out everybody if you don't do this. And that's what does it. So in a twisted way, Jaime is sort of rewarded for acting like a Lannister in that situation, right? Instead of following that path of honor, but the path of honor wasn't working. So he's very much, again, back in sort of full-on Lannister mode. At the end of that, they take over, you know, Riverrun without any loss of life other than the Blackfish. And, you know, he's sort of, that honor piece of him seems to be gone. Or is it? So, as Brienne is rowing away with Pod in the rowboat, we see Jaime wave, and she waves back. So, there's this reminder, that pull of, okay, who am I? Am I this honorable person? Am I not this honorable person? And then the fourth scene we get in season 6, involving Jaime's quest in the Riverlands, is when he goes up to the twins to celebrate with Walder Frey. And they've delivered Edmure back, and Edmure's back in the dungeon. Poor guy, you know. And now there's a lot going on in this scene, and obviously the sort of money shot of this whole scene is Arya killing Walder Frey, obviously. And there's some funny moments that I want to get to also about him and Bronn, and kind of what Bronn is to Jaime. But there's a really short, compelling scene where, again, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau just nails it, where he's interacting with Walder Frey. And you can see this conflict within Jaime, and sort of this conflict within how the world perceives him and how he perceives himself, when essentially Walder Frey, after Jaime, you know, sort of mocks him for not being a fighting man, you know, he basically says, hey, Walder Frey says, hey, you and I are just the same. I did the Red Wedding, you're the Kingslayer, yeah, we're the same. And there they are in this seedy, stinky, smoky feast hall of the Freys, where the Red Wedding happened, by the way. And you can just see the bile just rising out of Jaime, like, oh my God, did he just compare himself to me? Is that who I am? And there's this, he has this 2 or 3 second series of facial expressions that's just like he's about to twist off and just kill Walder Frey right then. Either that or it's an intense self-loathing. But either way, Walder's comment just completely kicks him in the nuts. He can't even comprehend that that's really what it's come to. That a man like Walder Frey can think of himself as Jaime's equal. A man who is a mass murderer and you know, this old lech and just a nasty person, you know. So it's so shocking to Jaime. Did he just really do that? He did. And so Jaime replies in Lannister fashion, well, look, we put you in power here, and if you can't hold the Riverlands, we'll find somebody else who can. And that's a good comeback, and something that certainly Tywin would have said. But you see this turmoil within Jaime, like, I can't believe this just happened. Now, in that same scene earlier on, you see where Jaime and Bronn are sitting there, and there's the serving girl who turns out to be Arya, and then there's the 2 other serving girls that are checking out Bronn. And so, you know, Bronn's basically saying, look, man, you've got everything. You're rich, you're powerful, you're handsome. You know, they want you to do fun things with your golden hand, you know. And Jaime's just not interested. And he has been faithful and loyal to Cersei, and she would never know. And the funny thing is, she hasn't been faithful to him. I mean, she's been with her freaking nephew or cousin Lancel, you know, among others, which he doesn't know about. But, you know, he's been completely devoted to his twin sister. She's not been loyal and faithful to him. Here's all these beautiful girls that would love to have a piece of Jaime, and obviously in Arya's case, maybe, you know, a different kind of piece. And so Bronn exposes in Jaime this, I don't know, like Ghost of Christmas Future sort of thing, or this alternate path that Jaime could have or might take of, you know, being unburdened by this love for his sister. It's this sort of other way, and it's the life he might have had or could have had he, you know, not been with his sister and done what his dad wanted, which was to be Lord of Casterly Rock someday and you know, marry someone highborn like Marjorie or somebody like that. But he didn't. And so Bronn exposes that, and he does it in a humorous way, obviously. But because Bronn is faithless, but he's also a realist. And Jaime, who is probably one of the least likely romantics, is horribly romantic and devoted more than he lets on. He's romantic in the sense of, you know, his ideal to Cersei, and it's true love, and he doesn't care if she's his sister. That's how it is. And the Targaryens did it, so we can do it too, right? He's also romantic in the sense of being an honorable man, or so he thinks. So the Riverlands just exposed in Jaime all of these conflicts. And at the end of season 6, he rides back to King's Landing, finally, to get back to Cersei. And what does he see? He sees that she's done exactly the thing that he was trying to prevent when he became the Kingslayer and slew Aerys. She's done it. Her actions have resulted in the deaths of at least 2 of their children, Tommen and Joffrey. Myrcella, not really, but... So, his children with her are dead. She's now become, clearly, something else. With her children dead, Cersei is now free to let her id and vanity and desire to do whatever the hell she wants to do. Those desires are now unbound because of her children being gone. She's now Queen Cersei Lannister. She's not Queen Mother. She's not the queen because she's married to Robert. She's the queen, period. And here's Jaime walking into this. And that look that they share at the end of the season is just so powerful. And you can see so many emotions in Jaime's face. I mean, you can read it many ways. You can read it that that there's contempt, that there's confusion, that there's despair, that there's fear, that there's accusation. There's all these different feelings inside Jaime. And so, Jaime, now, right now, before season 7, is at this incredible fork in the road. Who is he going to be? Is he going to be Jaime Lannister, her consort? That's probably what she wants. You know, sit next to me on my throne, guard me, be my brother, be my lover. You can marry me and, you know, we'll do it Targaryen style, right? Okay, maybe. Is he going to go down that road? Or is he going to realize that she's not who he thought she was? And maybe she's never been. Maybe she's just free now to let the insanity out. So what's he going to do? Join her? Leave her? Kill her? We'll see. But clearly, Jaime's going to have to make some decisions, and pretty quick. Now that the battle lines are being drawn and the pieces are all kind of on the board. I mean, you have the North, you have the Crown Lands and Cersei and the Lannisters, and I guess what's left of the Baratheons. And then you've got everybody in the South plus Dany. Can he really abandon his sister? Was it easier to abandon his sister with Tyrion, being the hand of Daenerys? Would he join them? Would he try to find Brienne in the North and, pledge himself to this honorable cause of defeating the White Walkers? We'll see. Honestly, I can see Jaime doing any of those things. I don't think he knows what he's going to do. He just knows that he can't keep doing what he's doing. And I'm fascinated to see what happens with Jaime. I think it would be very fitting for him to be the Queenslayer, and it might come to that. Because if you think that Cersei's crazy is over, it's just started. She's not bound by anything now. Her dad isn't there to regulate her. She's the queen, so she doesn't have to worry about the children, or being, under them. She also doesn't have to worry about them or appearances. She's free to do whatever the hell she wants. So I'm anticipating lots more bad stuff from Cersei, where she's going to have to be put down. She could be defeated militarily by Dany. She could be killed, assassination style by Arya or by Jaime, I suppose. But something's going to have to be done, and it seems too fitting, for Jaime not to be a part of that in some way, given that he's the Kingslayer and just their bond. I mean, that seems almost dramatically necessary that he be involved in some way with that. So let's see. I'd love to hear your comments on this. I think Jaime's character has been one of the most interesting from a story and character development perspective in the whole series. There's other characters that are fun and great, but in terms of dramatic progression and where he started versus where he is, what an incredible arc. And the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with Jaime, I think just adds to that sense of amazement and wonder, not only, you know, for the show watchers, but even in the books. I think Jaime has to have a meaningful character arc, has to break away from her, you know. But I guess it's possible he doesn't. He could simply, you know, resign himself to, you know, the dark side and just embrace it and go down with her fighting, right? So anyway, please leave your comments. I appreciate you watching, and I'll check in with you next time with another character review for post-season 6. Take care.